Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Laura Coates, and this is CNN Tonight. Free speech, religious liberty, and the right of same-sex couples to not be discriminated against. Well, they're all tied up in a case before the Supreme Court this very day. Now, the big question everyone's asking, and certainly the justices were asking today, is does a graphic designer have the right to refuse to create websites that celebrate same-sex weddings based on her own religious beliefs? In just a moment, I'll talk to the plaintiff in that very case. Plus, we are, if you haven't noticed, just a few hours away from yet another election day. I told you it's really election season. And the final election day of the midterms is upon us tomorrow, and it's really down to the wire now. In less than just 9 hours, voters will be going to the polls in Georgia's Senate runoff between Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock and Republican challenger Herschel Walker. Let's get right to the Supreme Court case right now. I'm joined by the plaintiff, website designer Lorie Smith, and her lawyer, Kristen Waggoner. Ladies, welcome to the program. I'm glad you're both here. I have been really curious about this case, as so many people have. And frankly, there's been about a little divide about this issue in the sense of who can tell who what to do and what they can do about it. It's kind of the old question of the time. And I want to start with you, Lorie, and really understand your position a little bit more. But this is not a case that was filed against her. This is not somebody who is suing you. This is almost a proactive opportunity you're taking, I understand, to figure out, look, can I expand into the wedding website business and not run afoul of Colorado's law that says you cannot discriminate against same-sex couples? Tell me about why you wanted to bring this case now before you actually even entered into the wedding website business, really.
Sure. Well, I am a custom graphic and website designer. I create unique, one-of-a-kind websites and speech. And yes, I want to design for weddings, and I want to design in a way that's consistent with my faith. But Colorado is censoring and compelling my speech and forcing me to create custom artwork, custom expression that goes against the core of who I am and what I believe. So everyone has the right to not only speak, but to create consistently with what they believe. And at the core of my cases is just that. Everyone should be free to create artwork, unique artwork that goes along with what they believe, whether their views are similar to mine or perhaps different on the topic of marriage. Nobody should be forced to create a message that goes against the core of who they are.
The words I'm hearing stand out are custom,
yes,
create, art, and speech.
Yes.
And those four really combine to be the heart of this entire issue. On the issue of custom, just so we're clear, these aren't templates that you are putting out. Somebody has to essentially contract with you specifically, and they have a vision of how they want the website to go, and then you create that per couple or per customer. Is that right?
Absolutely correct. Everything that I create is unique, one of a kind. No two graphics or websites are the same. They're unique in nature, and everything that I create is expression of some sort. I have clients from all different walks of life. I have clients who identify as LGBT, but I cannot create every message that's requested of me. There are some messages I can't create no matter who requests them. And the state of Colorado is saying you must set aside your beliefs to communicate a message that goes against what you believe. That should be frightening to all of us. Nobody should be forced to communicate a message that goes against the core of who they are.
Who has forced you to do that?
Well, the state of Colorado has said if you create custom artwork that's consistent with your faith, that you must set aside your faith to create websites that promote a message about marriage that goes against my beliefs. Nobody should be put in that position. And so my case is not only about me and my artwork, but also protecting the LGBT artist or graphic designer who should not be forced to create custom artwork that opposes same-sex marriage.
So no one, just so I'm clear, no one's yet asked you to create a website for a same-sex couple. You're talking about this as a speculative notion. It might happen one day.
That's
and you didn't
true.
want to. So someone has asked you?
I have had requests for same-sex
And what have you
wedding.
done?
I'm unable to enter the wedding industry because the Colorado law would come after me and treat me in a way that's consistent with the way it's treated other people of faith. So I took a stand to not only protect my right, but the right of everyone. Everyone should be free to create artwork consistent with what they believe. And so I shouldn't have to sit around and wait to be punished to really challenge this unjust law in Colorado.
So, and just thinking about this, I want to bring you in here, Kristen, because as you can imagine, there were, and I'm sure you heard today, so many people who are talking about different analogies and the slippery slope, as they say. The idea of, well, if they let you do this, then we got to let everyone else do something that is going to, in some way, harm people discriminatorily. What do you make of the idea that, look, if Colorado or the Supreme Court really were to say now, no, you're an artist, I appreciate that, but if you avail yourself to the public generally, you can't then turn down certain people, because if you do, others will follow in terms of religion, in terms of race, in terms of disability. What do you make of that connection to your client that this could cause a slippery slope?
No matter how the court rules in Lorie's case, it's still illegal to turn someone away because of who they are. The critical distinction that the justices made today in the case is that it's based on what the message is, not who the it's based on the message and not who the person is. And Lorie has LGBT clients. She's always looking at the message. Every graphic design artist, every artist and speaker wants to have the right to make distinctions based on message. And even the United States in the court today agreed with that premise. The government can't compel you to say something that you don't believe.
So the question really is, how is it your message if it's their wedding?
Everything that I create is unique and one of a kind. And there's an important process of determining what the message or messages are that I'm being asked to create. And again, I'm carefully considering what those are. It's always about the message or messages, never about the individual. But then I'm using a custom, we're not talking about templates, plug and play. I'm creating from scratch, very much like a traditional watercolor artist uses a white canvas. I'm starting from scratch and creating custom artwork, lettering, words. I'm telling the story in a way that I think is artistic and creative, creating imagery, photo, everything from start to end is custom and unique. And it is speech. Everything that I create is expressive, and Colorado agrees that what I create is speech.
Well, and I want you to talk, but there is that moment, Justice Amy Coney Barrett, of course, seemed to talk about the strongest part of your argument was the idea of it being related to custom. You can imagine if it were a template, a very different scenario probably ensuing at that point in time. I know you wanted to make a point. I am curious, though, in terms of, you mentioned LGBTQ plus people would be protected as well in terms of what your position is, and that they would not have to create things that they were opposed to as well. Do you think that members of the LGBTQ plus community believe that your message is actually promoting what they would stand for as well? Are you taking a step back and saying, look, this is about free speech broadly. You keep focusing on the message. Is that what you think the message is, that as long as you have LGBTQ clients, as long as you are an artist, that you're allowed to not follow that particular law?
I serve everyone. I cannot create every message. And what the law is saying is that you have to speak a message that's approved by the government. That should be concerning to all of us. Everyone should be free to create unique expression, artwork that's consistent with what they believe. And that protects me. It protects the LGBT website designer. Nobody should be forced to create a message, custom artwork, expression that goes against their beliefs, whether those beliefs are similar to mine or different.
So when there is, there are people who are obviously married and are in same-sex relationships, and I know you wanted to jump in here. I'll invite you in this conversation, of course. What do you say to the retort that says, look, this is discrimination. You have a product, but you just don't want to sell it to me because I'm a same-sex member of a couple?
Because a product isn't the same as speech. And certainly public accommodation laws apply to millions of transactions every day. But when we're talking about asking someone to use their heart, their head, and their hand to imagine and create a message using traditional blending art with technology, that's speech. That's not just a product. And just as the LGBT designer doesn't want to have to celebrate same-sex marriage, or a pro-abortion photographer doesn't want to have to film or photograph a pro-life rally, we all should have the freedom to decide what ideas are worthy of expression. It is the what, not the who, that is the critical distinction. We all can make message-based distinctions. The First Amendment has protected that for 100 years and should continue to do so for all of us. That's how we have a free and stable government. It's how we have free and fearless reasoning. The government can't tell us what to say and to do.
That seemed to be Justice Gorsuch's position, the idea of the who, not the what, not the who. But I do wonder, at what point can someone say, I'm an artist, and not really be one? My question really is, what is art? I mean, obviously, I'm not disparaging your art form. Right. I had a wedding website. I understand it. It's a whole thing. I know you're an artist. But what is to distinguish you from somebody saying, well, you know what? Look, my macaroni and cheese in this restaurant is a work of art. This pie is a work of art. The way that I make my clothing in this boutique, works of art. So you know what? I don't want somebody in here who's gay, who's black, who's Jewish, who's disabled. What is the line that distinguishes, say, you from the artist that somebody could, under the auspices of saying they're an artiste, do the same thing? Do you have those concerns?
Well, I can only speak to myself, and I've made it clear I work with everyone. I have clients who identify as LGBT, and what I'm seeking is that the court step in to protect everyone's right to speak freely.
The court has already determined these tests. Every free speech case determines whether it's speech or conduct. The law is well established to determine that. Is a message being communicated? Is it in a medium that we're used to seeing, that we know, words, text, and graphics? That's speech. If we're talking about some macaroni and cheese dish, that's not speech, and that's an easy call for the court to make, and they've been making those calls for many, many years under the First Amendment.
You haven't had a mac and cheese, first of all, so you don't know what it says to you. But in reality, I mean, I know we're out of time, but I want to hone on this point because you've made this point several times about the idea of having LGBTQ clients. Have they expressed a reaction to what you're doing? And are they supportive or not?
Well, I've been in business for over a decade, and I have had clients who identify as LGBT for quite some time. Mm-hmm. I think it's important to note that there are people across the spectrum who hold the same view as marriage, who hold a different view of marriage, who are standing up to support this case because they recognize that everyone should be free to communicate and create consistent with what they believe.
So you've created websites for your LGBT? I'm curious about that notion. Were you creating work that was somehow intersectional with their identity or sexual orientation?
I have clients who identify as LGBT who are small business owners, who are realtors. And again, when I receive a request, I'm always looking at what messages they're asking me to create through my custom artwork. Is it something I'm passionate about? Do I have expertise to actually create what they're hoping I'll create? And is it consistent with my faith?
So you've stopped short of the wedding. That's essentially the point.
I haven't been able to step into the wedding industry because the state of Colorado has made it clear they will come after me. And so I'm asking the court to step in and make this right.
Last question to you, and that is where things stand right now. I mean, obviously, this is a case where people might say, well, hold on, why are we even here right now? This is not quite yet an issue. She hasn't entered the business yet. What is this about? And I believe you were the attorney for the Colorado baker as well in the past. Is that right? And so some would look at this and say, are you simply trying to use a client to, not in an ethical way, that's not what I mean, but an opportunity to relitigate that particular case through this new medium?
Absolutely not. In fact, Lorie's case was filed before Jack Phillips' Masterpiece Cake Shop case even went to the Supreme Court. And now that she has seen the punishment that's been imposed on him, he's in his 10th year of litigation right now. Colorado is the most aggressive state in this nation to enforce their law and impose fines and re-education against like-minded speakers like Lorie. So she has the right to go to court rather than to violate the law and allow the state to prosecute her. That's what our justice system provides.
Well, we will see what happens. The Supreme Court's known to be very quick. We'll have an answer tomorrow. No, not at all. Stay tuned. Thank you for being a part of this conversation. It's important to hear what you were thinking and the why. I appreciate it.
Thank you.